Okay, we are going to go ahead and get started. Thank you for joining us today for our meeting on the Ken McDonald Golf Course. I'm Shauna Warner with Neighborhood Services here at the city, and I'll be helping out today. We are going to be recording the meeting so we can post it online. So if you know people who are interested and couldn't make it, you can always refer them to our website. Due to that recording, we just asked during the presentation that you remain muted, and then we will have an open Q&A where we can have you go ahead and unmute. So again, thanks for joining us, and I'm going to turn it over to Craig Hayton now with Community Services.
Thanks, Shauna. Good afternoon, everybody. Craig Hayton with the Community Services team. We have a couple of our Tempe team here today that I just want to introduce you to. We have myself, Julie Hyder. I think Alex Jovanovich will be joining us. We have Savannah Harrelson and then Shauna Warner. We really are here to support this process to provide an opportunity for Tom Bugby with the Courseco team, a chance just to run through a brief presentation and then also to be able to answer any questions that you may have. So if you're joining us virtually here today on the 10th of January, thank you so much for taking the time. But if you also have been able to find the presentation and then are watching it after the fact, we do appreciate you taking the time to watch it as well. So before I turn the presentation over to Tom, I just would like to provide a little bit of background of what's led us to today, and then just talk through procedural items on just some next steps and kind of where the process has gone, just so we can bring this to today. Certainly within the city, we work through some pretty strategic processes, and to do so, I think it would be important for us just to provide that background before turning it over to Tom. So for those that are familiar with Ken McDonald Golf Course and also Rolling Hills, today's conversation is for Ken McDonald only. If you go to our webpage, if you Google Tempe Public-Private or Tempe Golf Public-Private Partnership, you'll get taken to our webpage that will have information about the overall process, but also both golf courses. But we're here really specifically to talk through Courseco at Ken McDonald Golf Course. We had posted a solicitation back in July of 2021 seeking interest from the business community to partner with the city on 4 key goals to ensure the sustainability of community-based golf within Tempe, something that we're proud to provide now. How can we do so in the future? We know, especially over at Ken McDonald, that we have some capital needs. How can we ensure that we're addressing those? Certainly, we know for anybody who has played at Ken McDonald over the past 20 years that we've had some significant opportunities and some challenges with the clubhouse. We also want to make sure one of our other goals is that it's revenue positive to the city, something that we are able to be financially sustainable through as a golf fund. And then finally, what can we do, seeing that golf is really providing an avenue for broadening recreation and then just uses of courses in general as community spaces. So those were kind of the 4 goals that we had entering into this process. We received 6 solicitations or proposals were provided. We evaluated that in the fall of 2021. We were given the authority through Mayor and Council in March of 2022 to negotiate with grass clippings at Rolling Hills, and then also with the Courseco team at Ken McDonald, but they also were interested in Rolling Hills as well. So we were limiting our time specifically with the Courseco team to Kenny Mack at this point. We've been working behind the scenes on the negotiation process, but really excited to move into a public input phase where we are kicking that off today here on January 10th. We'll have a public survey that's available as well, where we have an opportunity to get some information based on some very targeted questions, so we can see what opportunities are available for us over at Ken McDonald Golf Course. And so as this month-long public input process unfolds, we'll evaluate all of that input and then continue to work with Tom and Mike from the Courseco team on the negotiation process, where an agreement would be taken before Mayor and Council at some point this spring for their input and then potential vote at that point. So with that, that's an overview of the process. I know that we have an opportunity to hear from Tom from the Courseco team. If you have specific questions as they're coming through, please feel free to put them into the chat or hold them for the end. If you recall the slide that it was on and we need to refer back to a slide, we can certainly pull that up. But we do ask, if you've got a question that you want to verbalize, that we'll leave that for the question and answer period at the end, so that Tom can really work through his presentation with a rhythm. So with that, I'll turn it over, Tom, to you. Thank you for taking the time to join us today. We also have 2 in-person meetings this afternoon at 4 and 6 p.m. here at the History Museum on the Tempe Public Library campus at Southern and Rural for anybody who would like to join us in person as well. So with that, Tom, I'll turn it over to you. Please let me know when you're ready for me to share the presentation.
Perfect. Thank you, Craig. Appreciate it. Excited to virtually be here today, and excited for the 2 meetings this afternoon as well. So I'm Tom Bugbee. I'm the Chief Operating Officer for Corsco. And so I'm going to just jump right into the presentation, Craig, and start with a little history and background on Corsco and our approach to golf management. So just start with the first slide. We view all of our contracts as a partnership. You know, when we work with the ownership of a golf course, such as the city of Tempe and Ken McDonald Golf Course, we view it as a partnership, not necessarily a contract, because at the end of the day, our goals and objectives have to align, and we have to be prepared to make sure that both sides are successful. So first slide, please. So a little bit about Corsco. We were established in 1989. Our focus is in the Western United States. Currently, we have 42 properties across 6 states, and the vast majority, 32 of them, are municipal public agency contracts, meaning the golf course itself is owned by a city, a county, a university, a flood control district. So really, public access golf is our specialty. We have 4 core values: stakeholder communication, community programming, environmental sustainability, and financial performance. And a little bit later in the presentation, we'll get to each of those and talk a little bit more in detail about why we focus on that and how we think that's going to benefit the city of Tempe. Next slide. So do want to talk a little bit about our golf portfolio. We very much approach that every golf course is unique. There's no 2 golf courses that are the same. Everything from infrastructure to location to the market that they exist within to the customer base is slightly different. But we're using 3 examples today of what we think have some parallels to Ken McDonald and the city of Tempe. And we think will be of specific interest to the golfers, to the public here in Tempe. The first one is Pacific Grove Golf Links, which is on the Monterey Peninsula in California. This is a municipal golf course. We took this one over about 8 years ago, and very similar to what's occurring here at Tempe. The city was doing the maintenance, and they had a concessionaire running the food and beverage and golf operations, and we took over turnkey management of the facility. One of the reasons that we wanted to highlight this is that this golf course has very much a mix of the customer base, meaning there is a big group of loyal resident golfers, local golfers that support the golf course throughout the year, but there's also the tourist golfer. There's the golfer that comes in and plays 1 round a year, or maybe 1 round every 5 years when they visit the Monterey Peninsula. And of specific interest here is that we've set up a pricing structure that very much ensures that we have affordable and accessible golf for our local residents, while being able to provide an experience that the tourist golfer can enjoy. And that tourist golfer revenue helps us provide superior golf course conditions and hospitality without having to increase rates for the locals and residents. And that's one of the things you'll see throughout today's presentation is we're very much aware that we want to be able to provide that affordable and accessible golf. And our plan is not to come in and raise rates significantly. In fact, in the first year, we typically don't even change rates at all. Next slide, please. Palouse Ridge is a golf course that we're very much proud of. It's on the Washington State University. So again, similar to Pacific Grove, this has a mixture of golfers. We've created a world-class golf course that is a destination. You know, we are consistently ranked in the top 5 university golf courses in the country. And so people literally travel there just to play golf. Yet for the residents and the students at the university, we're able to provide a superior product at a very reasonable and accessible price. Next slide, please. Old Works is a story that we're very proud of. The reason that we've included this contract is 3 years old for us. And in the bottom left, you can see a picture of a very recently renovated clubhouse. In this case, we arrived and the clubhouse was the original clubhouse, had been neglected for many years. This one is owned by the county in Anaconda, Montana. And we worked closely with the county on a complete clubhouse renovation. The patio you see there didn't even exist a year ago, and we were able to add that and create a place that the residents want to visit. And that includes golfers and non-golfers alike. And on the upper right, this is a former top 100 golf course in the country, a destination. And again, we think that we're going to be able to provide excellent golf course conditions, superior customer service, and also address the food and beverage needs at Ken McDonald. Next slide, please. So again, this slide just really quickly hits on our 4 core values. And I'm going to jump right into the next slide and give you a little more detail on each one. So financial performance. Ultimately, if you can't financially perform, you're not going to be in business very long. And now financial performance does not mean the largest profit possible. In fact, that's very much the opposite of the way we approach our partnerships with our municipal partners. We look at it as financial performance includes partnering on capital investments. Ongoing capital investments at the golf course is key to being able to provide the experience that the residents and non-residents alike expect at Ken McDonald, but also that the golf course is sustainable in the long run. Provide rent to the city, as Craig hit in the opening. The city was very clear on one of their objectives is to be cash flow positive. And so we have to be able to provide rent to the city. And then the last key bullet point there is ensure golf remains affordable and accessible for the residents of Tempe and even the greater Tempe, Phoenix, Scottsdale area. Next slide, please. Community inclusion. As I mentioned in the opening, 32 of our golf courses are municipally owned. Effectively, that means they're owned by the taxpayers. And so we believe that while the 10% of the population that typically plays golf in any given market, there's also 90% of the taxpayers that therefore own the golf course, but don't use it for golf. So we put a very concerted effort on providing non-golf events at our golf course. Some are fairly easy, such as a food drive and our ability to give back to the community. Others, like the Halloween open house or the movie night that you see there, are targeted towards kids and their families, and the ability to bring them out to the golf course and enjoy experiences that typically wouldn't be at golf courses. We find that there's 2 big benefits to this. The first benefit is that we're able to expose people to golf that maybe wouldn't be exposed otherwise, and break down some of those barriers. So for a kid or a person, even an older person that's never played golf before, it's no longer as intimidating when they've attended community events out at the facility. The second benefit is just giving back. We very much believe that, again, these are owned by the taxpayers, and it's our duty to give back to them on a regular basis. Next slide, please. Stakeholder communication. This is one of our 4 core values, and really today is just part of it. And in fact, as we've looked at this at Ken McDonald and worked with the city of Tempe, it's one of the things that very much attracted us to this potential partnership. We don't pursue every single golf course that comes down the road to us, not every opportunity that we see, but when our values align, we very much are anxious to pursue it. And that's what we see here at Ken McDonald. Our ability to tell the city council, to tell the boards, to tell the golfers and the neighbors and the residents what's going on out at the golf course, and have open dialogue. It's not just stakeholder communication is not one way. It's not just us issuing a newsletter or giving a little presentation. It's also us taking feedback, learning more about the community, learning more about what the residents and the customers want, and incorporating that into our operating plans. Next slide, please. Environmental stewardship. This is something that's been in our DNA since day one. Our founder attended the first Earth Day many, many years ago. And very early on, Corsco took the approach that golf courses are often unfairly labeled as big drains on resources. We're very much aware here in Tempe of the issue of water availability. And we're very proud of our environmental record and what our approach will be at Ken McDonald. We are a 2-time winner of the Golf Course Superintendents Association President's Award. No other management company has won it once, and we've received it twice. We have 71 environmental leaders in golf awards. That is over double any other management company, even though we are a fraction of the size of some of our major competitors. And 21 of our golf courses are Audubon certified, with another 7 in the process and expected to finish within the next year or 2. So we're very proud of our track record, and we look forward to being able to bring that to Ken McDonald and share that with the residents as we move forward. Next slide, please. So visions for the future. So far I've really hit on who CourseGo is and touched a little bit on what our approach at Ken McDonald will be, but this slide's just going to give me a chance to be a little bit more specific. So when we look at Ken McDonald, we think it's a great golf course. We see a lot of loyal customers. We see staff there that is very much excited for their jobs and cares about the facility, and a city that is very invested in making sure that the long-term future is healthy for the golfers of the area. So we just want to build on top of that. So we want to make sure that Ken McDonald is known to be a leader in hospitality and service. Best-in-class golf course conditions, something that the golfers look at and really see that they're getting a value when they play out there. As I've talked about before, making sure that golf remains affordable and accessible for the residents of Tempe and the surrounding areas. We know that that's going to be something that we have to do to be successful into the future. Having those residents there through the good times and the bad will be important to our overall success. And at the end of the day, they're our best sales and marketing team when the residents are happy with the value they're receiving at the golf course. Capital investment in the golf course. We know that there has to be an ongoing capital investment program to make sure that that golf course continues to thrive in many, many years to come. A partnership with the city on a new clubhouse. I don't think it's any secret to anyone that's been to Ken McDonald. That clubhouse is tired and needs to be addressed. What exactly that looks like, we look forward to a separate process, assuming our contract is approved and we're able to jump in here and working with the residents, working with the city staff on what exactly should be done, but everyone's in agreement that the clubhouse needs to be addressed. Looking at an enhanced driving range experience, making that a focal point that can draw both golfers and non-golfers alike out to the facility is something that we are looking forward to exploring. And then a robust calendar of golf and non-golf events. As I talked about earlier, community programming and non-golf events are important, but so are golf events. Partnering with our home club, meaning the men's club, the women's club, the senior club, out at the facility, and making sure that they have a robust calendar. Looking at the local schools and working with them, as well as leagues and other events that we can host out at the facility. We have a saying that, activity breeds activity, and having a robust calendar is the best way to do that. Next slide, please. So really, that's my presentation today. As always, the question and answers tends to be some of the best time, because this is not only a chance for us to tell you a little bit more about ourselves, but also an opportunity for us to learn a little bit from you. We certainly don't know everything there is to know about the Tempe market and Ken McDonald specifically, and look forward to learning as we go.
Okay, thank you, Tom. So as we said before, this is your opportunity to ask any questions. I see some coming through the chat now. And then also if you raise your hand, then I can call on you as well. And you can unmute to be able to do that. So Tom, the question is asking about clubhouse hours of operation. Will they be evaluated through this process? Currently on Fridays, they close at 6 p.m. with 20+ people inside.
Yeah, so they will be evaluated through this process, and this is part of the learning for us. And not only will they be evaluated through this process, they'll always be evaluated. As we look at clubhouse enhancements, at more activity at the golf course, obviously we want to be there when the customers want to be there. So yes, through the process, and yes, ongoing as well.
Okay, and then the next question asks about the timeline for all that was mentioned.
Yeah, so I'm assuming the contract, I'll defer to Craig to answer that, and then maybe I can follow up with some of our specifics.
You bet. Yeah, and our hope has been that we would work through, I mentioned this briefly in the intro, that we would work this concurrent negotiation process and public input through the end of the winter, and then sometime early this spring, we would be able to bring an agreement in front of mayor and council based on any tweaks we need to make from input that we've got from the public. We currently have a great relationship with our current golf provider with Gemini. We do have a contract that runs through the end of this fiscal year for the city that runs from July through the end of June. So that's a natural timeline for us to potentially transition, and that's how we're going into this conversation and the negotiation process with the CourseCo team. So that's, if we end up with a contract that goes in front of mayor and council, it would include a couple public hearings and opportunity for additional public input. But that would be at some point during the spring, is what we would anticipate for a transition in with the new fiscal year in July.
Okay. And as far as our timeline and what we're talking about, you know, obviously some of the stuff we bring day one, our first day of the contract, and that comes to the customer service training. Some of our programming and events will launch with the calendar day one, but it definitely builds over time. And one of the big things I want to stress is, you know, we don't make any major changes on the first day of operations because we have a lot to learn still. You know, again, customer service training, yes. Policy and procedures, marketing, yes, we bring those. But as far as any macro changes to the facility, we want to learn from the customers. We want to learn from being there. And so it's going to be more of a consistent build than an overnight. This is completely different, because we know that there's loyal customers, and respecting them and retaining them is first and foremost on our mind.
Okay, Tom, next question. When you say non-golf events, what are they and where would you put them with people golfing every day?
Yeah, so the non-golf events, they can range. You know, one of the things we want to make sure is that it fits in the community. So I'll use some examples, knowing that not every one of them is going to work here. We do Easter egg hunts at a lot of our golf courses, and we do those on the driving range. We do them, obviously it's one morning a year, so very little impact to the golfers. It's gone in a couple hours, but we are able to attract literally hundreds of kids out to the golf course. We use the parking lots. Clubhouse, right, is another great location for non-golf events, whether it's, you know, maybe it's music on the patio, you know, during the spring and fall when the weather's right for outdoor activity. Sometimes we use the parking lot for a family fun day where we have things like bouncy houses and face painting. Movie nights are great on the driving range. Again, you know, this is after hours, so very little impact to range. You know, so it's not on the golf course itself. We have virtually no impact. There is a couple things here or there. For instance, we do some 5K runs on our golf courses where we might open an hour late on a given day, but very little impact to the golfers, because obviously that's our core business and we want to make sure we balance them well.
So Craig, this one might be for you. A question on asking if you need support from the taxpayer for this.
So we certainly would love input from the community on this, but this would, as a contract, would go in front of mayor and council. So this wouldn't be something voted on by the general public, but it would be something that would go in front of mayor and council for their vote.
And then again, Craig, the next one might be you. Given that 10% of Tempe residents are golfers and that parks, roads, libraries, and roads are not expected to be revenue positive, why is it necessary for a municipal golf course to be revenue positive?
Good question. The golf course is one of the few enterprise funds within the city, along with water, solid waste, and our ambulance fund. So the monies that we receive through revenues are put back into the golf course, and we're meant to certainly balance out. So we have an opportunity at this point. Our goal is to not supplement as we contract with somebody to manage the golf courses. So it would be revenue positive that we could help put some money back into the golf courses, the way that we're approaching it. So historically, it's been an enterprise fund where we need to pay for what we have within expenses with the revenues received. But we see that moving forward, that we'd be able to look at the funds that we receive from a contract and see how we could potentially partner with some improvements moving forward.
Okay, next question is asking if this is just routine golf course contracting, or is it about taking a different approach to course management?
Yeah, and I could, Tom, I'm sure you've got some input on that one, but from a city's perspective, our procurement rules When we look at entering agreements, we're following the typical process. What is not typical is that we're looking at changing our approach through this, where we're looking at a public-private partnership for capital investment. As Tom mentioned in one of his introductory slides with some of the courses that the CourseGo team manages, that the city is currently responsible for the maintenance. So this is a model shift for us in just how we've proposed this. So it is routine golf course contracting in some sense, but it's also a paradigm shift for us in how we're looking at managing the course moving forward.
Yeah, and I'll just piggyback on, yes, I mean, at the core of what we do, 90% of what any golf management company does is the same. We believe it's that last 10% that makes the difference. That's the 10% reflected in our 4 core values. And so that's what we're excited to bring. So I guess the contract itself isn't that atypical, but our approach is a little bit different, and we're excited at the potential to bring that to Tempe.
So next question asks if you plan on shrinking the size of the golf course.
No, there is no plans to change the footprint of the golf course at all.
Okay, and is Top Tracer planned for the driving range?
Top Tracer we do have a partnership with Top Tracer. And so that is one of the things that we're exploring. We have a national contract with them, currently installing at several facilities. So that is something that we'll be exploring. Honestly, we want feedback. We know there's some competitors in the market that have it. And so that's one of the things we'd want to work with the golfers and the user groups to understand if it's a good fit for Ken McDonald.
Okay, next question. The city currently offers affordable golf instructional programs for both adults and juniors. Will these continue?
Yeah, I hope I'm not misstepping here, but our hope is yes. We partner with a lot of our park and rec departments on golf instruction. We think it is a great way to exhibit that partnership. And honestly, it's a great way to reach out to people that might not even know about golf. They're reading through the park and rec department. And again, it lines up with that affordable and accessible golf. In this case, it's just golf instruction at those rates.
Okay, next question. Your nearest competitor, Dobson Ranch, has just hit it out of the park in the last few years with covered hitting bays at the range that are fully computerized, food delivery on the course and range, proactive rangering with slow groups being asked to move forward. Does CourseGo plan to incorporate any of those items for Ken McDonald?
Can you repeat the part about the on the course?
Food delivery.
Food delivery on the course. Yes. So again, that's the Top Tracer that I just mentioned. Our partnership there, as far as the driving range goes, we do believe that that's a significant opportunity. The nice thing about Top Tracer is it services the regular golfer very well, and offering them some technology and some data and statistics that are, as a golfer myself, I really enjoy. But I also have a family that's not golfers, and it provides a great experience for them. And all of a sudden, my kids actually want to go to the driving range with me. So we very much look at that as an opportunity. As far as technology for food delivery or managing pace of play, such as Tag Marshall, we have partnerships with all those major vendors. And we're not in the place yet to promise what's going to come, but we know that there's opportunity for that. And if the customers want it, we want to bring it to Tempe and Ken McDonald.
Okay, the next questions, the person, just for those who did join us a little bit later, we are recording this and it will be online. So if you missed anything, you can go back and watch it, as well as we'll be posting the presentation, so you can go over it again. But they are asking if you manage another course here in the Valley.
No, currently we do not have any here in Arizona. We have quite a few staff members that do have personal experience, including myself in a former job that have direct experience, but currently we don't have any in Arizona.
Okay, next question. Tom said that the rates would not increase in the first year. It would be, let's see, this is about naive to think that a new clubhouse, and course improvements would not come at an increase in rate. Do you have an average increase in rates in successive years at the courses you lease?
Yeah, I don't know if I have an average. I can tell you our general approach is, typically green fees are going to go up. Sometimes they stay flat, sometimes $1. Kind of the upper end is usually $2. That's just usually what the price increases are in municipal golf. That works pretty well. One of the nice things about the clubhouse is it can generate new revenue, right? So it brings in an opportunity for us to increase food and beverage revenues without having to increase the green fee, cart fee rates at the golf course. So we're definitely not promising that rates won't go up, but we are committing that they will remain affordable and accessible, and that our model does not call for any significant changes to the green fee to make this financially sustainable.
Okay, so I don't see any questions anymore. So we do still have some time. Okay, some are going to come in as we ask again. So if any others, I'll read this one, but then as others come in, please do feel free to put those in the chat and or raise your hand. So are you willing to consider the views of those who don't believe that some of what Toptracer does detracts from the traditional golfer's experience?
Absolutely. And that's why I said we're not guaranteeing the install, because we do want to understand what the customers are looking for. We're always looking for input. And, oftentimes, we have one project that's under design right now that's going to be installed this summer, where half the range is going to be Toptracer and half isn't. So we're able to, and in that case, that was because of the feedback of the customers that we're going to have mixed options at that property.
Okay, so anyone else have any questions? I did put in the chat the direct link to the survey that is open through February 7th, as well as our website Craig had mentioned, where we'll keep everything updated as far as project details and timelines as we get more specifics. But this is your time. We've got some time left in the meeting if anyone else has any questions. Otherwise, we will let you go on with your day. Unless Craig or Tom, you had any closing comments?
Did I see one more pop in there?
That was just the same.
Okay.
And you don't have to post your comments in the chat. You're also more than happy to verbalize them if you'd like as well. Looks like we did get an extra one come in the comments.
Yes. Just any ideas on improvements to the current course?
We think the golf course is in pretty good shape. So we don't have any specifics. Again, this is where we want to gather feedback from the customer groups. Of course, you can always improve the detail work out there, overall approach to maintenance. But we don't see anything that drastically sticks out of we have to change this day one. Instead, we want to make sure that we work with the customers. You learn a lot when you're actually operating the golf course itself, and make incremental changes on the golf course over time.
Okay, and then a question for ideas for parking improvements or redesign.
Yeah, if you have one, we'd love to hear it. No secret that the parking lot there is unique and provides a little bit of a challenge, but it's a little hard to envision what exactly should be done. But again, as we operate, as we look at potential clubhouse options in the future, we will be evaluating that, because we would love to be able to improve the overall parking experience.
All right, anyone else?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, Jim, if you want to go ahead.
Yeah, just real quick. When the course was originally designed, every fairway had at least one and sometimes a couple or three fairway bunkers, and it played totally different than what it does now. I realized they took them out, I think, for maintenance reasons. It's a lot less expensive to have to maintain them, but it sure made for a better course when they were there. Have you given any thought to returning the course to some of its originality with the fairway bunkers?
We haven't given specific thought to that, but that's the exact type of feedback that we look to work with the user groups over time. I know from experience, yes, you're right. There's a maintenance piece to it. There's also a pace of play issue. Sometimes with fairway bunkers, it can slow things down depending on the quantity out there. But there's a balance act out there too, right? Because we do want a playing experience that the golfers enjoy at all skill levels. So, you know, this is exactly why we love this stuff. This is why we love the stakeholder communication in these type of meetings, because that's a new note for me to write down and continue the conversation as we move forward.
Thank you.
Okay, before I go on to the questions in the chat, I saw some people unmuted. So if you have a question you wanted to ask, Linda, did you want to go ahead?
Yeah, I was just curious. I'm assuming that Courseco will have to pay a certain amount of money to lease the golf course to the city of Tempe. Is there any number on that per year, or how does that work, or is that still in negotiation?
Craig, you want to?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Linda. We are those financial details we're currently working out with the Courseco team. But yeah, that's certainly how it would work.
And then John, you had unmuted yourself. John Linda, did you want to say anything before we go to the questions in the chat?
Well, I put it on there. Thanks.
Okay, you did. I see now. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, then I'll just go in order if that's okay, unless you wanted to ask it.
Go ahead.
Okay, so we'll get to John's question in a minute. The one just prior was, would a new clubhouse stay in the same location?
To be determined. Obviously, generally the same location. We're not going to drastically move it, but could it move closer to the driving range, for instance, and change some of the opportunities for parking? That's some of the stuff that we'll be exploring both during the public input stage of clubhouse design, as well as getting a clubhouse architect involved. So generally close to where it is, meaning it's not going to move to a different, hole out on the golf course, but probably we would want to see if we can solve some of the parking issue by moving it slightly, if that works in the design phase.
Okay, then John Linda's question was asked about what was recently done next to the 16th hole.
Great question. I can take that one. We're currently, as an organization, working with our water utility on some recharge wells. So we had some work done last year on hole number 2, very similar to the work that's a little further resulted in a little further to the south on hole 16 was our first recharge well. But it's very similar work where they're doing some drilling. I don't know all the technical information to provide a whole lot of background about how it functions, but that's some exploratory work that we're working through with our current water utility. Just how do we utilize the space just in a more sustainable way is really partnering with our water conservation team.
Okay, and then the next question is asking, would the Tempe Men's Club still be supported?
100%. That's like the easiest question you could have asked me. We're very much big believers in home clubs and supporting them and working with them. They are usually the home clubs, and that's the term we use for men's club, women's club, seniors club. Usually those are your most loyal golfers. They've been there the longest. They'll be there the longest through good times and bad. And also they're your best word of mouth marketing team. And so we look forward to a very strong relationship with them if we're able to be awarded this contract.
Okay, so the next question refers that it's difficult for residents to book tee times because there are so many groups, organizations, and clubs who dominate the tee sheets on a daily basis. That might not have as much to do with Tempe. What is Courseco's philosophy of keeping it as a municipal course?
So, yeah, I think mixed in there is there going to be any change to create access? And the answer is there won't be any change day one. But we do want to understand what those, kind of what what's called booking struggles are, work with the city, work with the golfers, and try to find that balance to make sure that the residents have access. But we're still working within, city policy as far as booking windows.
And Craig, this next one's for you. Why did the city decide to contract with 2 different organizations to run both city courses?
We just made the evaluatory decision that there were some options for us to consider. So that was the route that we have taken as an organization.
And did we have any other questions? We appreciate you guys having them still come in. I don't see anyone else with a hand raised or unmuted. I know we're dropping off to our number of participants, so if you do have any questions, now's your time.
Can I make one further comment regarding the course?
Yes, please.
A few years ago, also on the course, the routing of the front nine and back nine was changed. And it's very awkward the way the nines finish. For example, if you're playing the back nine, you have to cross over the canal to start your number 10. Then you cross back over the canal to play 17 and 18, where the original routing made so much more sense. And both the 9 and 18 would finish at or near the clubhouse. Now you just got quite a walk between your starting your back nine and then getting back over to finish up on 17 and 18. I don't know if you've given any thought or even heard that comment at this point, but it sure is weird.
Yeah, so I had heard that before. I don't know the full history. And so kind of similar to a lot of what I said, we don't know the answer to that yet. But that is the type of thing that we would want to understand why the change was made, operate and figure out, okay, is this a net positive, net negative? And then of course work with the city on if we thought that there would be any reason to revert back to a previous routing. So again, I had heard it. I don't have the answer yet, but again, kind of part of the ongoing discussions for us.
Thank you.
Okay, and then another question came in asking what is envisioned regarding the current clubhouse? Is it possible that the current one can simply be restored?
And I can start with this one, Tom, if you like. I think we would, just working in partnership with the Course-Co team, identify what our options are. We don't want to rule that out, but we know that, the clubhouse is hitting 50 years coming up in a couple. So it's probably the most likely option to, rather than restoring what is there, actually looking at rebuilding, whether it's in the same location or, as Tom had mentioned previously, somewhere shifted from in a very small way.
All right, last opportunity for any other questions. So for clubhouse renovation, would you see closing the course?
No, we don't. We've done lots of clubhouse renovations, and in every case, we've been able to keep the golf course open throughout. Obviously, food and beverage becomes limited service, but we're able to make sure that the golfers still have access to the golf course.
Okay, Tom or Craig, did you want to close us out or?
Hey, Tom, how about give you some time for some closing comments and then I can certainly close it after you?
Yeah, perfect. Thank you. I just wanted to say thank you to everyone that attended. When we look at potential new contracts, potential new golf courses, the level of involvement that in these types of meetings kind of speaks to, it rises our level of excitement is probably the best way to say it. So to see 30 plus people here virtually, knowing that we also have 2 more meetings this afternoon in person, that's just exciting to us. That means a lot of people care about these golf courses, or this golf course specifically, Ken McDonald. And that's exciting to us, is these are people that we're going to be able to work with that want this golf course to be successful. And so, if we're lucky enough to finish up this process and have public support and have finish the contract negotiations with the city, we look at a very bright future here in Tempe, and we can't wait to get started. So thank you to everyone for attending, and the questions were great. They were very relevant and reasonable, and that's just it's the perfect mix for us as we look to hopefully get started here.
Thank you, Tom. And just echoing Tom's words, appreciate everybody taking time out of their lunchtime. If the noon was your lunchtime hour, appreciate the questions, the engagement. There are 2 in-person meetings tonight. If you want to hear, it'll be the same presentation, but for an additional opportunity for some in-person question and answer. If you want to connect with us as a team, that's an opportunity to certainly do so. As Shauna mentioned previously and put into the chat earlier, we do have links to the website that provide some general information, but as well as that, we do have a public comment period that's going to be open for a month that we're seeking some input as well. So just further information for us to help make an informed decision and then provide some information to Tom and the CourseGo team if we do choose to move forward, that really provides some additional background on some desires and opportunities that may exist over at Chem McDonald. So with that, just want to say thank you. Appreciate everybody's time and look forward to those who are able to make it this afternoon. And we'll talk to you later, 4 o'clock and 6 p.m. over at the Tempe History Museum for those who are interested.
And just
Shauna,
add, Tempe does a wonderful job of allowing community input. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Linda. Appreciate that. Shauna, thanks for facilitating today's conversation, and Savannah for your support getting the word out.